can try and win championships, and that's what it's all about. When you look from the outside and you watch this team, I know we're going to have a real good, solid hockey team this year.
Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Eric Wilson. And today we have a really interesting topic of discussion. We're going to be talking about Kaapo Kakko, an impending free agent for the Rangers, the former second overall pick in the 2019 NHL draft. He's an impending free agent, a restricted free agent, though. And the Rangers have to make a pretty big decision here regarding his future with the team. Of course, he was recently held out of Game 6 as a healthy scratch, clouding his future with the Rangers and putting pretty much everything in doubt for a very young, promising 21-year-old attacker that the Rangers drafted in 2019. No one really knows now what his future is going to be. And it's going to be really interesting because the Rangers only have around $13.5 million to spend this offseason, and they've got some other big names that they got to get under contract. You know, they're going to have to make a decision on Strome, on Kopp, and on Vetrano. So where does Kaapo Kakko fall into line here? But before we get started, Eric, how are you doing? And what are your initial thoughts on Kaapo Kakko being a healthy scratch from Game 6 and what the future might hold for him?
Yeah, I think Kakko being scratched in Game 6, as I've previously said, I didn't agree with that decision by Gallant to hold him out. I think he was one of our better defensive forwards and a major part of what made the kid line as special as it was. As for the future of his team, future of him on this team, I think it's still really too early to tell what his potential is, how high his ceiling is. He's only 20 years old. He just finished up his third season in the league, and he's had a lot of injuries throughout his time on the Rangers so far. So I think it's unfair to say that we should just get rid of him right away. We definitely need to wait and see how he develops fully before he becomes the true NHL player that he is going to be. I would say the best option with Kakko right now would be to sign like a 2-year bridge deal. Hopefully less than like 3.5 million, just so we can let him have 2 more years on the team, really see how he fits all in this lineup. And if it doesn't work out, then that's when we would let him go.
Yeah, I think the main point that I'm taking away from what you said is the potential part of it, right? With Kaapo Kakko, there is a lot of potential. He is only 21 years old. He was the second overall pick in 2019 for a reason, but he has not reached that potential just yet. And a big part of the reason why is his inability to stay on the ice. He's dealt with a lot of injuries. If you look at his games played every season, it's gone down every year. 66 games played in his 2019 rookie season, down to 48 in 2020, down to 43 in 2021. Injuries are a huge concern with Kaapo Kakko. So, Eric, when you're taking a look at Kaapo Kakko and evaluating how much he's worth potentially on a second contract or whether or not he should be kept around for the future, we know the potential is there. There's a potential to make a top-tier NHL player. But do you think that the injuries will always hold Kaapo Kakko back and prevent him from reaching that maximum potential?
Um, it's honestly very hard to tell. Like obviously this season he played less than half the games in the season, which is extremely disappointing. If that continues to happen and becomes a normal thing throughout his career where he is missing large portions of the season, then yes, that will definitely hold back his potential, not only because he won't be able to fully develop with time on the ice, then he won't even be worth of value because again, just like he just won't be playing in general. So yeah, injuries definitely play a big factor in the future of his career, but hopefully he'll be able to stay healthy 1 year and we can really see what type of player he is and what he can become.
Yeah, that'll be the hope. But even looking at him statistically, he has not been the most productive player. 23 points in his rookie season, 17 in 2020, and only 18 points in 2021 to 2022. In this year's playoffs, he did appear in 19 of those games, and he only produced 5 total points. So you could make the argument that maybe Gerard Gallant made the right decision to make him a healthy scratch because he just was not very productive during the playoffs. Personally, I think he should have been out there. I think it was a dumb decision to break up the kid line. The kid line was the most energetic part of the Rangers throughout the postseason. I just don't think they should have been broken up regardless. But there is an argument to be made that Kaapo Kakko was not pulling his weight in that kid line and just was not pulling his weight in general. So that's definitely something to take a look at when you're discussing Kaapo Kakko, 6'3" right winger, the attackman for the Rangers. But it's going to be interesting now because he is a restricted free agent entering the offseason now. And in the NHL, of course, teams can make offer sheets. And we've seen a situation before with Jesperi Kotkaniemi. I know I butchered that last name. Eric, you can help me out with that. Say his name.
Jesperi Kotkaniemi.
There you go. Him. He got an offer sheet from the Carolina Hurricanes at $6.1 million. the Montreal Canadiens could not afford to match with their cap issues, so the Hurricanes subsequently extended him and at the NHL trade deadline for 8 years at a lower AAV at 4.82 million. But the Hurricanes did receive compensatory picks for this offer sheet that he accepted. So something similar could potentially happen to Kaapo Kakko. Let's imagine a scenario where he's a restricted free agent, a team swoops in, and they offer him somewhere around $3 million per year, right? Well, then we're going to be taking a look at the compensatory picks, and it goes by tiers here. So there are tier sheets with it, and if you are offered a deal between 2 million and 4 million around, the Rangers would get a second round pick out of it. But if Kaapo Kakko were to be offered a deal between 4 to 6 million, the Rangers would then get a first round pick and a third round pick. So is that almost something, Eric, that you would be hoping for? That Kaapo Kakko is a restricted free agent who gets a really large offer sheet, and then the Rangers in turn get some compensatory picks out of it?
It isn't something that I would be hoping for, but it would be a lot better than just letting him walk. I think in return, the Rangers probably would hopefully not let it get to that point. We would probably offer him somewhere between 2 to 3 million on a 2-year bridge deal, is what we've been hearing a lot. But if it does reach the point where an offer sheet is extended, it'll most likely be a little higher, probably 4.5 million per year, which would give us that first round pick. And that's nice. That's like something that you always like to have. It's never a bad thing. However, a guy like Kaapo Kakko who has potential for this team, we're not looking to wait 2, 3 years down the line, or we can use this first round draft pick and then have to wait for more development. We're a win now type of team. As you just saw, we made it to the conference finals. So we would like to keep doing that. We're in the win now mentality. I don't think that the first round pick would do much for us. So I'm really hoping that the Rangers management would be able to sign Kako, or at least try to trade him before it reaches that point.
Yeah, and I think that's the right take there. I wouldn't be hoping for that. I think that the Rangers should hopefully extend him on, as you mentioned, and as we keep reading everywhere, everyone's hoping for a 2-year bridge deal worth between 2 to 2.5 million, maybe in the neighborhood of 3 to 3.5 million on a 3-year deal. That's another, kind of mock contract that we've seen out there for Kaapo Kakko. All of those make a lot of sense to me. Somewhere around 2 to 2.5 million per season. That makes sense for a player of Kaapo Kakko's caliber, because not only is he a decent player and he's part of the kid line, but he also does have that potential, and that's mainly what you're banking on with Kaapo Kakko, is that he's able to stay healthy in the future and develop and become a much better player than what he is right now. But what do you think of keeping the kid line intact? Should that be a main priority for the Rangers? Should they almost hold on to Kaapo Kakko just for the development of the other players on the kid line? Do you think that's something that they might be considering?
I wouldn't say that Kako's development purely relies on the kid line, nor does the other kids rely on Kako. Like, you could take Kako out of that line and put someone like Artemi Panarin on it, and they'll still play fantastic. But like, it is something nice to see like the three young guys playing together. Like, I'm sure it helps a lot knowing that like you're not a young kid playing with all these big named NHL superstars. I'm sure there's a lot less pressure on them when they're on the ice together, and they can have more fun with it. It's a different style of play, as you can tell in the league. The older guys play a lot different than the younger guys. So yeah, it would be nice to keep the kid line together with Lafreniere, Hedel, and Kako, but I don't think it would be the end of the world for any of their careers had it, like, if it does eventually break up.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement on that take as well. Kaapo Kakko, this is definitely an interesting conversation. I'm curious to see what the Rangers ultimately decide here with Kaapo Kakko and his future with the team. Of course, as I mentioned, he was the healthy scratch in Game 6. That created a bunch of controversy. He did have a couple of quotes after that game. He explained that he had no idea. He knew nothing and just saw the lineup. It was just a complete surprise to him. Gerard Gallant did not inform him ahead of time once the lineup was released. Kaapo Kakko saw it, and that was the way that the news was broke to him. But I will say he did have an interesting quote after the Game 6 loss about being scratched from the lineup, and he's definitely using it, putting it as a chip on his shoulder and using it as motivation for the future. Here's the quote. I'm going to show that I'm better than that. You should put me in the lineup. I'm a good player. That was his response there, just basically saying, I'm better than that. I am a good player, and I'm going. And he explained that he's going to use it to motivate him in the future. So I guess maybe the Rangers could have potentially created a spark inside of Kaapo Kakko, but will he realize that spark in New York, or will he go elsewhere to realize that spark? And ultimately, I just want to know what you think will happen with Kaapo Kakko, Eric. What is your prediction? Will he end up signing a deal with the Rangers, or will he end up taking an offer sheet elsewhere?
I personally think that next season we will see Kaapo Kakko in a New York Rangers jersey. Um, the chances of him leaving are there. The only way I can really see that happening realistically is if someone offer sheets him an extremely high amount of money that he just couldn't like refuse. As we've seen throughout interviews throughout the last 3 years, he loves New York. He wants to be on this team. And you're right, him being scratched in Game 6 is a big piece of motivation for him. Even Gerard Gallant said that next season he sees both Kakko and Lafreniere playing top 6 roles. So hopefully and probably we will be seeing Kakko as a New York Ranger.
Yeah, and another thing to keep in mind, though, as you mentioned, if he gets a massive offer sheet from somewhere, the Rangers do not have a lot of money to spend this offseason, and they do have some stars that they need to re-sign. So if a team were to swoop in and offer Kakko somewhere like 4, 5, 6 million per year, the Rangers really wouldn't have a choice but to just say, okay, we cannot match this offer sheet, so we're going to have to let Kaapo Kakko walk, and we'll just take the draft picks. But I agree with you. I hope that doesn't happen. I want to see Kaapo Kakko as one of the top 6 players, or Kaapo Kakko as one of the top 6 players on the Rangers next season. Again, I really love the potential that he brings when he's healthy. It's just about staying healthy for him, and hopefully he can be a little bit more productive too in the points department. Disappointing end to the Rangers season. Disappointing to see Kaapo Kakko not involved with that final game. But again, he was not the most productive member of that kid line in general. He wasn't really producing in the playoffs. So, Eric, finally, before we wrap up, what was your take on Kaapo Kakko's performance throughout the playoffs?
Throughout the playoffs, obviously he lacked in the point department as he did throughout the regular season as well. But, points isn't the only thing that makes a great hockey player. I think Kakko's a big guy. He brings great physicality, and he's a great defensive forward on our team. You look at guys like Artemi Panarin, he's one of our best point scorers out there, but he really lacks in the defensive department, which is like very underrated. And people don't really look at that when you value a player. But a guy like Kakko, he's a great player. Hopefully he'll be able to pick up points more throughout his career soon. But even outside of that, I still think he's a phenomenal player, and I really hope that he stays on our team.
Completely agree. I hope to see Kaapo Kakko wearing a blue shirt forever, wearing a blue shirt next season, and hopefully staying with the Rangers for a long time. I really like the idea of signing him to a 2-year bridge deal just to see if he can stay healthy in those 2 years, kind of start to realize his potential. Maybe the Rangers will have a bit more money to spend in 2 years down the line, and they'll be able to sign him to a larger deal that hopefully he'll be more deserving of down the road. So I think we're in agreement on that. I hope to see Kaapo Kakko return to the Rangers next season. But anyway, that wraps it up here. Let us know down below in the comment section. Do you think the Rangers should keep Kaapo Kakko, or should they be trying to get him to go, trying to let him go? Let us know down in the comment section. How much would you sign Kaapo Kakko for? What are you hoping that the Rangers sign him for on average annually? 2 years, 3 years, 1-year deal? What are you hoping to see with Kaapo Kakko there? But make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video. Subscribe if you're new. Ring the bell so you do not miss a video, and we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Rangers.
Let's go Rangers.
He shoots. Rangers win!